Just recently in Inside Track, we went through a process where we changed our management team structure. So we have almost 200 coaches, and we had coaches in teams by university, and then they would report into a campus director. And we've changed that so that now we have pods of coaches that are coming from multiple campuses, and then they report into an operations team manager, and that person has a counterpart that is an operations client manager. And they're kind of the partnership management team to ensure that across the pod that the strategies and the goals of the universities are being met. And it allows for more scalability and more cross-training and coaches to help one another. But it was a huge shift in the organization and just a huge change in the way people thought about team and thought about who they worked for, and being able to be flexible and move from one university to another, all of that. And so the biggest challenge was just, I think, the kind of what's in it for me scenario, and what those managers, what that would mean for their own career and their interest and their strengths and how they could utilize them. And then for coaches also to understand, how is my job going to change now that I'm in this element? So folks were really excited about it at the beginning, and I think conceptually everybody agreed to the change. But then when the nuts and bolts came in, the need for that constant communication and constantly going back to why it was important for the business.
Oh, yeah.
Our business has been in a constant flux. There's a lot of change. Initially, this was a small business. People that ran television and radio stations often were wealthy individuals who owned a small group of stations, and this was the way it was, and in addition to the networks which owned stations. And this was the way it was from the beginning, up until after cable in the 80s. Then there was an interest in buying more and more stations, and groups got bigger and bigger. And that was interesting because things went from pretty much a small business to a corporate business. And a lot of the people who were in the business from the beginning were not used to, doing an expense report or having to do a projection or a forecast for a bigger group. Well, there's the things that when you go through a change. You know that people are going to be disrupted, people will be emotional, people will worry, and you understand that you'll have to realign resources. But what you don't know is the things that are going to be system problems, computers that don't talk to each other maybe, logistical things. Things like the time zone. Of course we knew that it was going to be difficult, but we have someone coming in Texas who's responsible for your station, so all of those logistical things have to be worked out.
So I went to OpenText as the chief marketing officer. That's about $1 billion software company. But when I started, it was quite a bit smaller, and it had just 27 different brands. And so the idea, and those brands were assembled by acquisition. And so the idea of coming together as one company was sort of antithetic to people who had started their own company and then gotten acquired. So the change to go to OpenText as a brand and as an identity for these individual companies between $20 million and $100 million each was very, very difficult for them to understand the rationale and then to get on board with that rationale. So the hardest part, I think, was devising the strategy and the rationale itself, and then doing the work to communicate that strategy. And I think it comes down to the work that you must do to get people understanding in order to change a company or a division or a culture.